Alright, so today now I'm going to try and put in the front servo for the steering. Got this new steering mechanism in videos ago with the ball bearings and stuff. So I got my servo here and we're going to see if we can get it mounted. I did some stuff prior to this video just to save some time, but I want to go through and explain a little bit about it. So the servo is usually held in by, I guess, what they call servo blocks, which look like this. All right. So as you can tell, there's two holes, one hole on that side, one hole on this side, and a hole on the bottom. All right. So what happens is that hole on the bottom goes in these holes on the bottom of the pan wherever you want it. So if you want it screwed in there, you put it on that one. You take this one, you find the hole on the bottom right there, you put it over here on this one, and then you take your servo and you mount it in between them. And there's 4 holes in the face plate of the servo, and they go on these holes that are then facing out like that. All right. However, that's cool for what it is, and I'm going to use this style arrangement on the back for the motor. These were the original ones that I had, pretty nasty. I'm not going to use these. What I did is I cleaned some up, and then I dyed them, and so now they look like this. So they're black, and they look much better. And I got new black screws for them, so I've already got them situated and how I want to put them in. So these will be for what I'm going to use for the speed wiper in the back. Okay. So I'm going to set those off to the side. I just want to show you the difference. That's what they look like when we started. This is what they look like now. And these were the ones for the steering, but I'm not going to use them. What I'm going to use now is this device that I've already mounted, that I purchased, because the steering is so fluid and so dynamic. I wanted something a little bit more stout than just 2 blocks with not a lot of rigidity to it. I want this thing not to move. So I bought a new servo mount that's one piece. So like here's your holes for the bottom. There were 4 holes, 2 on each side. So these are like a little block here and a little block here, but they have a cross beam going across the top that's holding them together as one unit right there. So instead of 2 individual blocks that can maneuver and twist and turn as the car is moving and as you're trying to do steering and all that, this will hold that servo a lot better. So it's made for the RC10, AJC, RC10. They took some design into it. As you can tell, this leg is a little longer than this leg is really short. It looks like it's a mess up. However, it's intentionally made that way because when it sits into the pan where it sits on this side is one level, and over here where the nose piece and the pan go together is at a different level. That difference is the difference in these legs. So when you take this now and set it in here with the short leg on the where it goes, it sits flush and there's no rocking or anything. So that's where she's going to go. So we'll go ahead and put some screws into it. Got those here. These are some new black screws, and they're flush mounted because these are also flush mount, so they should go right into there, right where we need them to go. We'll get them started here. And the other one. Like I said, I took the liberty of just go ahead and mounting that bracket to the servo. I didn't feel like I really needed to take some time up on the actual video to show that happening. The screw head here is being a little bit of a pain, but I'll be more persistent than it is. These are all Allen keyed, so they just screw around there. We'll get it semi-tight, and we'll go up here and attack this one so that we can get them going in evenly. Don't want to strip something out, it's just going into plastic, so again, you want to go pretty even and just snug. Go right before you think you're going to strip it out, and then back off a half a turn or quarter turn. Alright, so now we have a servo that's cockeyed. I put that. Let's try that again. Should have looked before I tightened that up, huh? I don't think that's where I want it. I'll give you a couple of different mounts. So this one here, as you can tell, it's cockeyed. Oh, it's over that way too far. Should have been in that hole. But you know what? Only God doesn't make mistakes, so not a problem. We just move it from one hole to the next and line it up. It's an easy fix. Actually, I guess it was in the right hole. It was just there's two holes in the bottom of the servo mount to choose. So I was right in the pan. I was wrong in the mount. That looks much better. Alright, now let's tighten these up. So again, right before you're going to strip it out, and then back off a quarter turn. Okay. Hey, that looks a lot better, doesn't it? Squared up. Okay, let's set this here. So now I have to attach this arm to this little white piece that rotates on an axis whenever you use your controller. And what it'll do is it'll push forward for steering one way, back the other, and in neutral position when you let go, it should go straight. There's different options on how to attach this to this that come with the servo. They have this round wheel, they have a cross wheel, and they have a just a long double-sided one. Okay, these are all geared on the inside with some little bitty teeth, and I don't know if you'll be able to see that. You may be able to, but that little white knob right there is geared, so those splines line up in there, so you can adjust it pretty much wherever you want it to go. If you need it, for instance, straight up and down, you can select those little gears and then mesh it on there. There may be a time when you want it perfectly straight, however, and you can't just quite get it there. So what you do, in my case, is on my controller, I have a little switch down here. I call it a fudge switch or a zero switch. So I put power to this and I turn everything on, and it should go to neutral because this is springy. So I go one way, I go the other, wherever it falls, that's neutral there. I wanted it straight up and down. If it was still a little cockeyed, then I just move this zero bar a little bit and it fudges it which way you want it to go until you can get it centered. So that's what these are for. It's how I use them. I try to get it by the splines as much as possible, and then I only have just slight correction to be made here. The So I did that already, and I went ahead and I powered it up, and I found out where that needed to be, because what I need to do is put this in, get this point right here exactly in the middle of these two. If it's too far forward, it's turning one way. If it's too far behind, it's turning the other. So you want these 2 points right here. If there was an imaginary line drawn between them, you want this point here exactly on line with them, and then your wheels will be straight. If they're off from that point, you need to start turning turnbuckles and get them lined up. But that's where that is your starting point. With that being said, then you want the very center of the screw for this point of the arm to be right in line with that center of the white pivot point. All right, because that is where that's all going to line up. Now again, in this case, I cannot use one of these because it'll run into the pan. It's too big. All right, this servo is closer to the pan, and this will not rotate it. It works like a kickstand and it stops. I could use this round one right here. That would work great. It will clear, it will turn. The only problem here is when you put that point centered right over this axis and you try to turn left or right, that servo only moves 45 degrees. So that if it moved all of 90, that would be cool, or all of 90, that'd be a huge throw. But it doesn't, because when whatever's rotating from this point back 90 degrees, it would get in line with the screw and that hub. It'd be a pain in the butt. So it only moves 45 degrees. And that wheel the diameter is so small that it rotating just 45 degrees only makes this move very small, like this, right? You can hold that up there and look at that diameter of that wheel and say, hey, that's only going to go from there to there. If it only went to right there, then I'm losing that much steering. If it only goes to here, then I'm losing that much steering. And I want full range of my steering. So then what I did was I took this jobber, because it has so many different selections away from the center. So for instance, if you line both of those up, the furthest I could get away on this wheel would be like the second hole out here. But this is so far out, now I got a wider range, because the further you get from the center point out here, the more throw you're going to have when you go back and forth. This first hole is only moving a little bit, but this one's moving a heck of a lot. So again though, you stick it on there and you want to use the top, the bottom's running into the pan. Well, that's an easy fix. You just cut one side off, round it out. And that's exactly what I did here. So I have this arm, if I can turn it a little bit where you can see it, I have an arm just right there that's 1/2. I cut this side right here off, rounded it out with a file, and only used the top half that I needed. All right. I also use these brass connectors. They have all kinds of play and mobility in them, so when this is moving around, it won't get in the way. And then the screw just screws through and self-taps into this plastic. So it works really, really good. So all I have to do, as you can tell, I don't know, you may be able to tell it, but you see there's a little black mark there. That black mark, when everything's turned on, goes straight up and down. So now I know to connect this, I turn it around, line it up, and put it where that would fall onto that, with that being straight up and down. It may not be straight up and down now because it's in a non-powered state, but when you power it up, they sync up and then they'll be. So you take that, you line up the splines as close as you can to that point, and you push them on just like that. All right, so there's that. Then you take a small screw, It comes with the servo, has some wide threads because it threads into it, and it goes into the side of that arm and keeps it from backing out. So then you just put that in there and tighten it down. Awesome stuff. All right, just like that. And now we have a servo. And the front's done. I'm going to work on getting the back up. When I get the back on, we'll power them up and show you how they work.